very good evening and welcome to this edition of the Frontline this Thursday, the 2nd of August 2018. My name is Charles and we are right back. After the court ruling in Mbale, we are going to be looking into that, plus other issues of the week. But first, the Frontline trigger.
The contested constitution amendment process now heads to the Supreme Court as a section of the Constitutional Court petitioners express dissatisfaction with the verdict of the Constitutional Court.
I have carefully considered Article 93 of the Constitution, which deals with the restriction on financial matters, and Article 94(4), which provides for private members' bills, as well as Section 76 of the Public Finance and Management Act 2015. Which deals with the cost estimates for bills. The petitioners claim that the bill initiated by Honorable Mabirizi flouted this particular provision. With due respect to the petitioners, I do not agree. They seem to have misconstrued the import of Article 93. I do not accept that a private member's bill should not receive any form of support or facilitation from government or parliament.
The parliament cannot and have no power to extend their own term for an extra 2 years, as the mandate given to them in 2016 was only for 5 years. More importantly, neither the members of parliament nor the president have any political agenda approved by the people for the extra 2 years.
The week also ended with elections in the newly created municipalities as the ruling National Resistance Movement Party returned home victorious, with the main opposition party, the Forum for Democratic Change, emerging most bruised. Are there lessons for the parties from these contests? This is NBS Frontline.
Welcome back, gentlemen. Welcome back from that Frontline trigger. We are back on air. Let me start with the guests. Next to me, immediate left, the man in red. He has said that the NRM decided to pick all the UPC people. For the opposition decided to only pick the color. He's in red, but FDC. It's Honorable Semujju, MP for Kira Municipality. You're most welcome back today.
Thank you.
The man who has all the, the terms, I pray he doesn't use them here. Honorable Fred Mukasa Mbidde, he is a legislator, Ugandan legislator at the East African Legislative Assembly, Yala, in Arusha. You're most welcome back to town.
Thank you, Odongtho. Good evening, viewers.
And I must say, he's the vice president of the Democratic Party as well, yes. Which is very important, a position. The man who is making the news, he made it earlier, and he's enjoying the limelight. Mr. Mabirizi Chiwanoka. He is a lawyer, not yet an advocate, and one of the petitioners in the so-called Mbale petition, constitutional petition. You're most welcome to the Frontline for the first time.
Thank you, Mr. Charles.
I mean, physically here, but you have appeared on the show before. You remember, from Mbale?
Yes,
from Mbale,
yes,
online from Mbale,
yes.
With Sabiti. But you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to join you. I think the discussion shall be...
I should enjoy it with your presence. Thank you. And the lone frontliner today, but he doesn't, he makes you not to miss anyone. you're most welcome back. And is the executive director of the Uganda Media Center. He speaks for government. He speaks for the NRM. And he's a frontliner officially. You're most welcome.
Thank you, Charles Odongtho. I saw one of the cartoons in the newspapers had Mabirizi's petition overflowing almost up to the roof of the court.
Over 8 reasons for appealing. Yes. But there was another interesting one, which the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General reminded me of, and that there was a cartoon, I think, in the Monitor about the petition. that while everybody is eagerly waiting outside for the doctor to come and announce that the result is out, people are asking, is it a boy or a girl? Then the doctor says, it is a child. Neither a boy nor a girl, but it is a child. Let's start from, we are going to be looking at the political and legal implications of the ruling in Mbale, and then we will also be touching on the recent elections that have taken place around the county. Let's start from Male, the man who petitioned, of course, together with Honorable Semujju, but starting with you. Did you win anything? What did you win? Let's start from the positive.
Personally, as a petitioner, and we as a group, as petitioners, including Honorable Semujju and others, I think we won by 70%.
What did you win by 70?
If we manage to throw out MPs extension of their years from 5 to 2 years, and starting from themselves, I think that was a very big win on our side. Ask me why.
Why?
Right now we are fighting the remaining parties, President Museveni. If it was a team, now we are fighting now the captain, who has been allowed to proceed to the pitch, yet we are saying that the captain and his team should remain where they are.
In other words, in military terms, actually, you have only killed juniors. The commander is there and more deadly.
But the commander does not fight. And you know how long it takes for him to mobilize some other militias to come and fight.
Okay.
And basically it is, you see, it was so dangerous for MPs to include their term. And if we left it at that, it would mean that at one point, this country would go back like how it was during Obote. Obote and his MPs were voted in 1962. They were never voted again until when Amin toppled him. Why? Every time they could come to parliament and sit and say, we are deemed to have been elected. So this was coming. And with the powers which parliament has, because this parliament can even increase its payment without even any question. So they were extending that prerogative also to increasing their term.
So that was very dangerous.
It was very dangerous for our constitutional, the constitutionality of this country. So if you manage to win that, that's why actually you see even Ofono Pondo's
chairman.
Yes.
Is
now complaining because he's now lonely. His team is
breathing fire.
Of course, because he's lonely, and I expected that because his team is left behind.
Do you believe in that?
Believing in what?
In the fact that he's, do you think that he's genuinely jittery about the the MPs being denied?
Because
we shall discuss that, and I will tell you, probably I will share with you that and ask you whether it is not a smokescreen. But let me come to Honorable Semujju. Did you win anything from that petition? In your view?
Yes, I think, but the most important thing was the whole Constitutional Amendment Act. I am not excited that we stopped the MPs. I'm not even sure that these MPs and Museveni will not go and present another Constitutional Amendment bill. Because I've been told by one of them, first that they are going to appoint a Constitutional Review Commission. They will also present a comprehensive constitutional amendment bill in which they will be proposing a referendum. Because you see, what people don't understand, the 7 years never started with the MPs. The 7 years started actually with Mr. Museveni. He's the one who was complaining that he uses the first 2 years to appoint cabinet and to rehabilitate NRM MPs and other NRM leaders. He has not been able to appoint into cabinet because he said you keep quarreling because I have picked a UPC here and a DP here and FDC. And he said, so I spent the whole first year dealing with the cabinet. As I begin working, then the fourth year we go into party primaries. So in one of those meetings when they were plotting, he's the one who started the 7 years. So the MPs were extremely happy. I suspected Museveni wanted the 7 years to start with the next term of office, but the MPs wanted it to start immediately. So therefore the question he asked, did we achieve anything? I think yes, partly, but the most important issue we wanted court to resolve was never resolved, and that's the issue of the Maje's bill, now I think we can call it the M7 Act, the age limit, which was the most important, because all these were just a dessert. So the main course was
left intact.
Was left intact.
Okay. I'll come to you later. Honorable Mbidde, you are a lawyer and you delve a lot into issues of the Constitution, and you probably followed all the rulings as they were read by the different justices. Were you happy with any of them? Some aspects of them?
Not at all. I could also safely say I associate myself with my brother, Honorable Semujju's dissection of the question, whether really anything was achieved. In my opinion, one needs then to look at the original intent of the bill. The substantive intent of the bill was the amendment of the article
102B.
102B. All the others were mere imponderables.
Were mere what?
I could do. You know, you will allow me to.
You need to keep explaining some of these things. Imponderables, you said. Okay. Whatever
yes,
it is.
But you could see that were annexures, that were afterthoughts. And they were generally imported into the bill during the development of the enactment itself. In my opinion, one would think that if any judgment were to generally benefit those that intended to petition against the process, the 75 age limitation ought to have been given a decision for purposes that it would be maintained. Now, when you look at what happened, I know that the original intention of the bill was left intact, this time now guarded by an order of court. To the extent that if an appeal is not successful, we are now looking at both the court and the parliament stamping and of course giving a green light to all of those above the age of 75 to continue competing for office here in Uganda. So in my opinion, we did not win. The members of parliament who had actually also thought that we are going to share the loot lost out. And if a judgment is just against them, in my opinion, they were the softest target and they received the beating. So I don't think we achieved the bigger bargain that we had wanted before courts of law.
What did you win?
First of all, like I've said elsewhere,
What did you lose?
democracy won. You know, there are people, including some of my colleagues on this table, keep making claims that our institutions don't work or don't work effectively. The fact that Parliament makes laws and those who are aggrieved run to court and receive a hearing, receive a judgment from the petitioner Mabirizi. He says 70%. It means that both Parliament and courts actually function and work well. Two, the fact that the court found Parliament in breach of certain rules and procedures of Parliament itself, for me it is a win, because then Parliament will take corrective measures and hopefully we should see Parliament working better. Three, Mbidde talks about the intent of the bill. The intent of the bill was written. The Mabirizi bill is available. It had about 7 or 10 provisions to amend the Constitution, and Mabirizi stipulated those clearly. One of which was partly trying to actualize the directive of the Supreme Court in the Honorable Mabirizi versus Yoweri Museveni presidential election petition. All those courts has found that being part of the original bill there was consultation about them, has maintained them. So clearly it has given the Electoral Commission a larger time frame within which to handle election, should there be nullification or should there be a tie in the president. No candidate getting more than 50 plus 1%. I agree that the finding and the judgment that MPs, I wouldn't use the word smuggling, because ordinarily in the course of legislation, usually members of parliament introduce, the bills change. Sometimes bills are written even 60% and they still remain the bill and they're enacted. But the fact that it bordered on arrogance and selfish, trying to circumvent voters by extending their term, when in fact they could have achieved the same purpose if the intention was money, for example. They could have gone to parliament in this financial year and doubled their salary. So the salary, the salary of 24 months, they could have achieved it. And nobody would have made quarrels that the Semujju has increased his salary, but they would get away with it if the issue was money. So I think that lack of seriousness on the part of the movers of this of that particular provision, by being struck down, I think again Uganda and constitutionalism won in my opinion.
Okay.
Now, it is possible that our colleagues were looking at only one item, the presidential age limit, because in their view, they have made this argument before, that this is the only remaining check to a person who the people of Uganda would want to vote over and over and over.
Wants to die in office.
I don't want to agree with them that this is the only, or even the main check. The main check in our constitution for electability is actually the election. Okay. By them focusing only on this, I think now is getting clearer that they are admitting their collective inability to defeat this man. One, they say, is old. Some of them even go to the extent. They say. Some of them go even to the extent of saying he's senile. Third, they say he has not done anything to Uganda, for Ugandans. To the contrary, poverty has increased. These would be strong case, strong issues for them to put before the voters, so that the voters vote out this man.
Okay. Honorable Mbidde, you want to cut in there?
Of course, we have consistently had this claim that because we hold periodic elections, then obviously this is a test as to how good the government has performed. I think that is with undue, without regard to the quality of elections.
Mm-hmm. And the Electoral Commission.
Yeah, of course, that one now is
part of the process.
Is part of the process. The quality of election is such that it cannot evolve a substantive result on election of the president. What may be or needed to know is that we are looking at constitutionalism. And you know, when we mention that, people think there is no difference between the Constitution and the constitutionalism.
There's a big difference.
It is a huge difference. Whereas the Constitution is a document, constitutionalism evolves over time. A presupposition that a constitution can be followed. That is what turns it into a grand norm. Now, when you look at a government that marched into Kampala, vending an idea that they are establishing constitutionalism, turning out to be, the chief vendor is now a Sabalwanyi. Now, what happens?
I like the word vending because...
Yes, because you see, that was the idea. It was the moving swan song on their lips. Now, this is not the constitution that they fought against. It is not true. This, otherwise, is actually their only document. So when you turn around to declare yourself a chief fighter against the constitution, you almost turn it as if it is a manifesto for the opposition that must be targeted and fought article by article. to the extent that even a victor out of court is a victor against the opposition. While victory is determined in as far as you have amended the same articles you established. Now, for me, that is not constitutionalism. You can remove documents and establish new ones. But the culture of following constitutions, even when they are establishing restraints on the powers that be, that is what we would have called the constitution. And I know that the petitioners were seeking to preserve that.
Good.
I just wanted to make some small point about the petition and the judgment. Maybe to recap from Honorable Semujju. For me as a petitioner, my main concern actually, when I went to
the court,
to the Constitutional Court, was not whether these MPs cannot amend the Constitution or whether it cannot be amended. The question is, as Honorable Mbidde was saying, are you following the Constitution? Are you feeling what are you complying with what the Constitution is telling you? Whether they go back and set up a committee, a Constitutional Review Commission, they do what and what, no problem. And actually from the beginning, Honorable Nsamba was telling the Speaker that, Madam Speaker, I'm proposing that we make a resolution that a commission is set up. And our complaint at Timbali, why we won, was that the articles Parliament amended were actually required a referendum. Required a referendum for them to be effected. So if Parliament is so serious that it wants to 7 years, now let them follow the procedure. And I don't think whether Article 92 of the Constitution will allow them to do so, because you cannot go to Parliament and make a law to defeat a court order. But whatever the case may be, if they are now willing to follow the procedures, they are willing to make a referendum, because the order is clear that they cannot extend their term, except when they have consulted the people. And why I insist that we want so much, because at least, no matter the shortcomings of the judgment, there was a clear signal that actually people are sovereign. That in this country, Parliament is not sovereign. People are the one who are sovereign. So I think the MPs shall now start to check on their actions, knowing that actually the people are sovereign. That's what I wanted to make out there.
Maybe before I come to Honorable Semujju,
yes.
What are you going to appeal? You have already notified that you're going to appeal.
Of course, I'm appealing against, because my position, like other petitioners, is the process through which the act was amended was irregular and unconstitutional. And constitutions world over protected by procedure. I think even OO would agree with me that the only thing which protects constitutions is the procedure to amend them. Even if it's a village constitution, you say that to amend it, we shall need 70%. That's the procedure that protects it. So these judges are telling us that, well, the procedure was not followed. Well, there was violence. Well, there was intimidation. Well, Asmani Mujanyi issued an order which they termed unconstitutional. But again, government could go ahead and amend the constitution. So that's what, basically that is it. Our point is, if a constitutional amendment process is irregular, everything must follow.
So you're going to court to contend that the whole process, in other words, you're going to court to pray to the Supreme Court that the judgment, the dissenting judgment of Kakuru is the best in your view.
Definitely.
Everything must be thrown out.
Yes, because if you agree that actually there was violence, if you agree that these MPs never consulted the people, if you agree, actually they agreed with us in most of the cases. For example, they agreed that actually there was people like us who were prevented from entering Parliament. They agreed that actually Parliament was a garrison, that there were so many soldiers inside and outside Parliament. So what are you telling us in this constitution, which has a preamble that recording our history, which has been characterized by violence? Now, are you justifying amending this constitution by violence? And you see, when you go to Article 3 of the Constitution, that is treason itself. So instead of taking in these MPs for treason, this court is saying, no, some parts can remain. So
Okay.
that's the problem. And if it remains on record like that, it means even if Semujju tomorrow gets power and he has his guns, he can bring them to Parliament, amend it, and then say, what was the substantial effect?
Okay.
Yes.
At this point, I actually need to say that we invited a number of the movers of this amendment of the Constitution in Parliament, the MPs from the NRM, but Kafuzi specifically had confirmed that he was coming, but he then just jumped ship and disappeared this evening and said he was not coming. We invited a number of others who were on the petition and supported it, but they decided that they are not coming to the show. I don't know why. They have developed cold feet. but that's for another day. Honorable Semujju, are you going to be part of the team that is going to going to appeal this ruling? Or you have made your point and you are stopping at this point?
It's a judgment.
Yes, a judgment.
No, we have filed a notice of appeal.
Together?
No, separately.
Separately again.
We will follow the procedure, filing the record and filing the memorandum of appeal, in which we will be outlining grounds of appeal. But let me pick one point from what O was saying, which partly answers the question you've asked. I think Honorable Mbidde has explained. You see, the constitution that we went to defend in Mbale we did not make it. It was never made by the opposition. Ofono Opono now says Mr. Museveni is very popular. These opposition are fearing to defeat him. That's why they want to change. They don't want the constitution to change. We didn't make this constitution. This constitution was made by Mr. Museveni and his NRM people. They are the ones who put the preamble talking about Uganda's history. One of the issues we presented before our court was the basic structure doctrine.
Yeah.
That a constitution is built like a building on pillars. The moment you remove those pillars, the building will crumble. And the court said actually that we are going to use that doctrine in interpreting this petition that you brought before us. Surprisingly, they applied it only on
the MPs.
Only on the MPs. And when it came to Mr. Museveni, they didn't. Because you see, this constitution emphasized the issue of orderly succession. And that's why, Ofono, maybe I should remind you, in your 2001 manifesto, on 12 pages of that manifesto, Mr. Museveni said this is going to be my last term. I don't know, maybe he didn't know that he was popular. On 12 pages, he said this is going to be my last term. I am serving my last term. On 12 pages, under the constitution that he himself made. You can't turn around and accuse us of fearing to defeat Museveni. He's the one who set the standards. We are only judging him by his own standards. People who made the constitution knew, even Obote, by the way. Obote also was as popular as Museveni. Rigging processes and rigging elections. Just ask yourself, Charles, we had a by-election in Rukunjiri. Rukunjiri was now reduced into a few sub-counties when they took away Kanongo. Just the remaining sub-counties, Mr. Museveni drove there with more than 5 billion shilling. Just an enclave, what remains of Rukunjiri. Ask yourself, how much does he spend when he's a candidate? And where does he get the money from? Ofono doesn't think that, you see, the economy now has actually failed to stabilize. We are borrowing. If you look at our budget, we have a budget of 32 trillion shilling. And when you do the mathematics, next year we'll only have 4 trillion. 7 trillion is going to pay debts in commercial banks. And then we'll go to borrow 6 billion. Because you see, the government now works as an ordinary person going to one money lender to pick money to pay this money lender and then go to this one. And part of the reason is because we spend a lot of money during elections. And from that time, the economy has failed to stabilize Ofono. We borrow from China. We can no longer borrow from World Bank, who are giving us concessional loans. Our infrastructure is now being built on money from China, and you know how commercial are Chinese loans. So as a country, we are in a crisis because we have someone whose appetite, we cannot tame appetite for power. And then he must spend all the money that he has and all the money that we have borrowed for him to continue ruling Uganda. So therefore, in Mbale, we asked the judges of the court to apply the basic structure doctrine because it has been applied elsewhere. So the moment you remove the main pillars in a constitution, there is no constitution to speak about. And as I said, and I want to emphasize this point, this constitution was made by Mr. Museveni and his NRM people. So therefore, the part of the reason we've gone to court, we are appealing, he has outlined some of the issues. The processes in Parliament, because this Constitutional Court annulled the Anti-Homosexuality Act on the ground, I mean, because Parliament never followed the procedure. That's what they said. This particular one, I was shocked. I am not a lawyer, by the judges. I think Mr. Mabirizi made that point during the hearing very well. The issue of the certificate of compliance, I think under Article 263 of the Constitution. When Parliament has made a decision on amendments, the Speaker, by that article of the Constitution, is supposed to transmit the content to the President for signature.
Yeah.
The Speaker omitted some of the articles that were amended because I think she knew that these articles had been amended illegally or unconstitutionally.
So it would have been prepared for her,
yes.
that certificate.
So the most important thing is that I think the Speaker transmitted either 4 or 6 articles, and Museveni signed on a bill
With 10.
that had 10.
Each of them had to have one.
You can imagine the Speaker has submitted a certificate that has 4 articles of the Constitution amended, and Museveni assents to a bill that has 10. So where did the 10 that Museveni signed came from? I had actually expected the court to say that the Speaker of Parliament, Rebecca Kadaga, fraudulently omitted the following articles. I was shocked when they said, you know, this, no wonder this one of MPs extending their term, no wonder the Speaker wisely left them out. This was fraud. That Parliament has amended 10 articles of the Constitution, and you, as presided over, you only transmit 4. And the courts were praising her that no wonder the Speaker wisely.
Maybe Semujju on that point of certificate, so that will leave it alone. You see, we had issue number, I think, 9. The issue was whether they are sent without a valid certificate. So the court was called upon to determine the validity of that certificate. Essentially, the certificate was not valid, and they never answered that.
They said it was not fatal.
It was a wide
But
decision.
they never answered whether it was valid or invalid. But looking at everything, it was valid. But an example is so simple that if you go, if you sit your name, and then they give you a certificate with a D1 in English, where you'll actually go to an F9. So what the court is telling us that UNEB can just use a pen and cross out the D1, the D1, because the D1 is a misreporting. Actually, you got a 9, and then make a 1 and 9, and then say, Mbidde, this is your certificate. And is that a certificate now?
So
Okay,
that's the matter.
you need to come in.
Well, it is, first of all, it is okay for the Semujjus to use a thick brush to paint. I hope they will use this very thick brush to paint at the Supreme Court, because I believe they made some of these arguments in the court. Are they now saying that the 5 judges refused willfully to listen to these very good, sound, logical arguments?
They did not determine them.
Now, well, you made those arguments. We shall wait. Since you have appealed, we shall wait to hear the new arguments, the reinforcement we are going to make. But the basic structural doctrine, we amended the Constitution in 2005.
No one sold.
We amended for 1, to move away from the movement to go to the multi-party. The Constitution didn't collapse. That was a major pillar. That was a major pillar of that Constitution at the time being made. 2, we came and amended term limit. Our colleagues again argued and argued. They said, recalling our history. I think they are using this as a scarecrow.
But it is in the...
Yes, it is a preamble. It is okay, but they keep hyping it. They want to use it as a scarecrow in the hope that they can intimidate the unsuspecting public that if you remove these provisions, you are in trouble. We have not seen any trouble since those amendments. And therefore, and I think really these fellows are now listening to their own echoes. They are refusing to believe that they are wrong. They have not been wrong once, they have been wrong multiple times successively. And we shall prove them wrong once more. You have appealed, let us go there, we make judgments.
Okay.
You see, the
And you see, that's why they come in and then rub in. When they win, the constitution is good, the courts are good. When they lose like they have lost now, then they say either the judges were bribed, you have heard them in the media, they have made these allegations, or they were intimidated because they can't dare touch what Museveni is interested in. All of these are scarecrow tactics of weaklings.
Of weaklings.
Yes.
Honorable Mukasa, are you opposition groups weaklings? Are you skirting around the constitutional standards or demands or whatever name you choose to put it in order to avoid meeting a strong man on the ballot, as OO would want to suggest?
First of all, I would like...
or you think that the constitution has really been downgraded to the extent, I mean, since 1995, to the extent that now it is not, the original one would not agree with the current piece?
First of all, if you were to discern the constitution, in order for you to come up with a description of its basic structure, one needs to know the basic structure can be determined right from the national objectives,
yes,
and the objective principles of state policy, the preamble. Then those ones can predetermine the totality of the constitution for you to arrive at the basic structure. To the extent that you can then now determine which kind of amendment tends to amend and thereby obliterate its basic structure, and which ones are not. Now, OO has given us a departure from the movement system of governance to multipartism. But you see, provisions of multipartism and movement system of governance were established in the Constitution as provisions that are changeable over time. It was even specifically and expressly stated.
Though the one of
even now,
though the one of the party system is supposed to be through a referendum.
Yes, but they are changeable. Even now,
yes,
it is possible under the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda to go back to a movement system of governance, because there are provisions that are actually to the effect that in terms of determination by the people, we can still go back. So that is not.
If Mbidde could allow me,
that is
to ask him, which provision of the Constitution does the Constitution say cannot be amended?
Yes. Now, you must now have to read the Constitution in pari materia if you want to arrive at its basic structure. You do not read one single provision.
As a whole.
You must read it as a whole. You cannot just look at it and say that once you have read Article 1, 2, 3, this now has set out the basic structure of this Constitution. I can give you examples. A basic structure is arrived at given the objective reasons that made it a logical necessity for a constitution to be written the way it was. When you look at the Constitution of Algeria, for example, Article 73, it is specifically stated that for you to qualify for president, for president of Algeria, it must be predetermined where you lied if you were alive in 1954, the revolution of 1954 of Algeria, or where your family, which position they were when the revolution of 1954 was being conducted. So you understand that
that sounds like the one, yes, of Kamuzu Banda,
yes,
which will the president of Malawi will be Kamuzu Banda.
Now, that was intended to cure. It was intended to cure. And It was aligned under the principle of patriotism. It must be determined where you lie. Now, in Uganda, given our historical problems of personalities and persons clinging on to power and others getting into power, working on dead bodies, it was established that there must be limitations in accordance to time. There must be limitations in accordance to age. The Constitution of the United States also now looking at what George Washington was and his ability to be elected, re-elected, and elected, it was established that limitations in terms of terms would be established. So the basic structure of those constitutions can be determined when you read Imparimateria, the constitutions. And of course now, which have got a lot of regard to the historicity of the politics of the land. Now here in Uganda, the age limitation and the term limitations determine the basic structure. You do not touch them and think you have avoided
you still have
amending
the old constitution as it is.
That is the thing.
And maybe if I can come in, there's another principle I argued, and actually they even did not determine it. You see, they had
Which one is that?
constitutional replacement. Constitutional replacement, actually, I argued it, I gave them authorities. That actually, there are articles that if we amend them, you have overthrown the constitution. And I told them term limits. Of course, that was some time back, but in this case, age limit. I told them age limit crosses across over 100 articles of the Constitution. I told them this president, the framers of the Constitution, gave so much power to this president, knowing that this president is neither too young nor too old. So they told him, you appoint electoral commission, UPDF, police. They thought they were giving these powers to such kind of person. So when you change it, you give it to a young man of 18 years to appoint a CDF, to appoint ambassadors, to, to do whatever it does, to manage our diplomats abroad, to wage wars, or to a very old man, then the country is in trouble and there will be no constitution anymore. And I think that supplements this.
I thought that is now goes back to the fundamentals, which you people call the basic structure. Nobody in that court, or by this amendment, has removed the principle that power belongs to the people who will. Nobody just, it is not the president who gives himself the constitution.
In fact, they protected
it. It is not the president who gives himself a constitution. It is the people of Uganda, through an election, that gives the president the constitution and therefore the power.
No, those same people sat in 1995 and said, our president shall rule for
I thought that is the dilemma of Honorable Semujju, that in the case of the MPs, that fundamental principle was left intact.
And that's why
but that in the case of the president, it was cutted around in order to remove the age limit and provide for him what Professor Oloka Anyango is now calling that the life MPship was removed and left the life presidency.
I don't think we are arguing about the same thing. And
it is the same actually.
That's why on this table and even in the judicial bench, it was unanimous that the MPs tried to be clever by half. Now, the judges found that in the Magezi original bill, including the item of age limit, rules were followed, and therefore you cannot apply the same argument. Now, if you want to be in the shoes of the judges, then you can be in the shoes of the judges. But that's the finding and the ruling, the judgment they made.
Okay.
Yeah, but you see, look at the neighboring countries. Funupondo doesn't think when you have one man and doesn't leave Burundi. The last time I was in Burundi, they are struggling. Almost the economy is completely collapsing. DRC, and Funupondo says now for so many years.
Are they all in there? Have they stayed for long?
They have stayed beyond the constitutional order. See, the constitution in Burundi and DRC is for 2 terms. So they've gone beyond the 2 terms, and that's why those countries are partly in trouble. And it doesn't matter how long it takes. Gaddafi was in power for 43 years. Well, now see the country.
That's your common line of argument.
So was Mubarak. So don't tell us about the years that you have been saying this for how long and doesn't happen. Maybe one day it will. And that's what we
I'm
must
saying
avoid.
You have,
Okay.
you have cited Gaddafi any times. And you are
Yes.
free to continue citing. There are many other countries where leaders have ruled for as much longer, and they have not had trouble.
Like which country?
Like Singapore.
Singapore, Tanzania, Kenya.
Okay, I have given you a stick.
Zambia.
And
Zambia.
and Honorable Semujju, it's a good point you have started on, but let's go for social media feedback. Raymond Mujuni is on the side, and then we'll go for a break, and then when we come back, we will continue from that debate. But for now, Raymond.
Good evening, Charles. A lot of interaction happening on our social media website here. We have Wabomba Derek, who starts us off saying, the opposition shall never win via courts. It's high time they change the way they play the game. Otherwise, I can predict the president of Uganda in 2028. I have a boy Margaret here who says, this question is directed to OO. Why did MPs selfishly import a bill to extend their term of office, well aware that the rule of procedure dictates that this is only possible during an emergency or war, but they still went against the electorate? That is to OO. I have Salik Kuchi here who tweeted us 13 minutes ago. In my opinion, the Constitutional Court was predictable, as many of us expected such a ruling of dropping 7 years and upholding the amendment of Article 102B. I just wonder why they had to take that long to read what the country expected. And Derek here again saying the verdict was very obvious. MP scrapped off. The big man withheld his position of 7 years as expected, and the judges just did it. Of course, keep tweeting us on the hashtag NBS Frontline, and we'll put your questions to our panelists.
Thank you, Raymond, for the social media interaction feedback. Continue bringing that so that we engage. And this is the time to discuss it before Male and Honorable Semujju and the team get to a confirmation for us that there is actually an appeal lying with at the Supreme Court, in which case we shall not debate it until there is a judgment, because it would be sub judice. But for now, we are going to be debating it, including we are actually allowed to even debate what the individual judges have done, and it's within our realm as of now. For we are
debating judgments.
Yes, for us, we are now debating the judgment, which is okay. But let's go for a break at this point, and then we'll be right back. This is the Frontline. Back from the break, this is the Frontline. This Thursday, the 2nd of August 2018. The guests, Honorable Semujju Nganda Ibrahim, MP for Kira Municipality, Honorable Fred Mukasa Mbidde, Iyala MP for Uganda, Mr. Okanso Male Mabirizi Chiwanuka, together with our frontliner, Ofono Opondo, who is the Executive Director of the Uganda Media Center. And we are looking, at this point, we are looking at the implications. I think we now need actually to move towards the political. We have touched heavy on the legal and tried to dissect what went right, what went wrong. But let's now touch on the politics. Honorable Semujju, in the next 20 minutes, let's now touch on the politics. What does it mean going forward? Because now this ruling now gives us some a specific knowledge that we now have, that there will be an election in 2021. Initially, a week before, before Thursday, we did not know whether there would be an election in 2021 or 2023, but now we have an election. Two, that in that election, President Museveni will be on the ballot paper as long as he's alive. That is also now a fact that we now know. And that's also a fact. Until rebutted. Because
have you talked to him and I said he's going to be a candidate, or have you talked to us in the end?
There is one time on the Capital Gang, you and Winnie Byanyima were discussing. I used to listen to the Capital Gang a lot. And Winnie Byanyima, or someone amongst you said, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it is a duck. You see, so there is a movement that we are seeing.
for
But
us-
you will rebut that. You will have the chance to rebut that.
For us who use evidence,
Yes.
we can say there is no evidence to the contrary.
Now, that is now, those are some of the things that we now have on the table. And you are going to be definitely a participant in that election as well, you, Honorable Semujju. How do you look at this ruling now affecting the next 3-4 years going forward?
First of all, I am not sure that Mr. Museveni, if I understood the statement he issued, and he signed it from South Africa, that he's given up on the 7 years. Because he says in that statement that if the MPs follow my guidelines, and then we go to the people through wealth creation, we will cause these reforms. I think many people didn't understand. The truth of the matter is that Museveni is extremely vulnerable today. He's never been this vulnerable. And that's why it's just obvious.
Why? What is the evidence?
So the MPs, first of all, wanted the financial gain, but also a political gain from this constitutional amendment. They asked him for money, and he's been paying. He has so far paid 140 million shilling to all NRM MPs. He has a balance of 60 he hasn't paid. And this payment, something is done. I remember when Mbabazi announced that he will be standing for president, they told him, they conned him that Mbabazi is paying debts of 200 MPs, he suggested them. Then, out of panic, he gave them 150 each, which we are calling Article 150.
I remember that.
And that's why I say Museveni is vulnerable. The first time they extended his stay in power from 4 to 9 years, he never paid a penny. Today,
that was in 1989?
Today he has to pay for
90.
For every major decision in Parliament. Museveni now has to pay because he's dealing with children. Museveni came into power when I was 12 years, 4 months old. Some of these shakers and movers within the NRM were not yet born. So he's dealing with children with whom they don't share any ideology, they don't share any background. So they look at him as someone they must con all the time for money. And in the meetings, things that people were afraid of saying, now they say them directly. Last time when he was meeting the caucus at Parliament, you know, he likes speaking about history, Africa. He said, please, we don't want Africa, we want money. and
well, how did you get that information?
It should be another person to ask me how. Then he said, okay, the rain will come this evening. That's the word he used.
When was this?
Towards when they were processing the Mabirizi bill, because he held several meetings, including one at that. So therefore, you now have a president who is vulnerable before the actors. Because people went to fight with Museveni in Ruwero, there was no money to get in Ruwero. There was actually a life to lose. These ones who are joining every day, they are just fortune hunters looking for money. And let me tell you, the economy is crumbling. We are in trouble. When you see Bank of Uganda saying inflation has been increased by they are also trying to be economic with truth. This mobile money can't change. They're just trying to find someone to blame. The truth of the matter is that it has become extremely expensive to do politics. The president can't get all the money. In fact, for the first time, he's paying installments. I never believed. 40 million, 100. They had refused to go to Chiboga when Nankabir organized the function for them to go and celebrate the changing of the constitution. They say, we are not going. They are not interested in Museveni, they are not interested in NRM. You just have a bunch of thugs who are looking for money. This country is in trouble. All the meetings he will hold from now onwards, it is money, it is money, it is money. Okay. I am told when he was briefing his staff, he said, I hope these MPs will not go around thinking I am bribing them. I am only helping them, they have debts. Because you see, this money is processed by staff, staff of the president. Because he must also speak to them. They see him every day loading money that he's going to pay MPs. So he said, I hope these MPs will not think that I am bribing them.
Okay.
So therefore, the politics you're talking about is that as a country, we are in trouble. The more I have Museveni, and I don't know, I just pray that the next president will be able to change, at least in the first 5 to 3 years, we're able to change the trend. When we had President Museveni on radio, I actually told him commercialization of politics is going to kill this country. And Museveni, being Museveni, said, I agree with you. This is something I have been fighting. You can
I'm going to bring you on this one. I'm going to bring you towards the end so that you can respond wholesomely. Honorable Mbidde, I know that you are in Arusha, but certainly you have a foot here that is following and actively participating in the politics. Are you worried by this ruling? Are you worried that you will DP that you represent, that you die for politically, will meet another man that is stronger, that is still strong, as OO says, and that you are still going to contend with President Museveni on the ballot paper once again?
First of all, if you have got a faulty weighing scale, it is not wise for you to determine out of all materials being weighed, which is heavier and which is not. So in Uganda, we do not have a substantive weighing scale for those who are actually voted for and those who are not, especially when you are talking about a president of Uganda. Democracy can apply elsewhere, except at the main seat. We attended... Yes.
That is by Ugandan standards.
By Ugandan standards, and we attended one of the meetings outside Uganda, and a lot of movement leaders were justifying what exists in Uganda as a democracy, merely because we hold periodic elections, and this is almost what we started with. They call it a democracy. I have told them that this world has seen a lot of things and has generally, because of that, given descriptions to what they have seen that has changed the manner in which they describe issues. Instead of a democracy in Uganda, the periodic elections that we hold, where the quality is so flawed, where the weighing scale is actually maintaining a measurement for President Museveni, even when he has not actually stepped on it, then this is not a democracy. It is called a democradula, or a dictablanda. If you want to understand what it is, you use the science of porridge.
The science of porridge?
Porridge in a cup. Which definitely, if you touch on the surface, you will think it is even cold. But whereas inside, it is extremely hot. Now, that is what is existing in Uganda. It is impossible for you to tell me that we have had any declaration of a winner of a presidential election in Uganda that is in tandem with the actual vote that has taken place in Uganda. Because one, the person counting the votes has been given details of what should come out. Actually, what is happening right now, Honorable Semujju has told you the amendments that would take place, even the increment of a term of office from 4 years to another 5 and everything, including the enactment of the 1995 Constitution. All of those processes did not attract payments. Why? Because that was still leadership. Today, every entity now thinks they are in a conspiracy to continue leading somehow. So conspirators need to be paid, and they are paid everywhere.
So you're calling the MPs, I wish they were here. They really missed.
They are watching, and for me, I'm actually sympathetic to them.
Mbidde paid them when he was campaigning for years.
I did not stand for president, so please don't insinuate.
No, he disclaimed and said this is applying to the only one office.
Only one office. The rest you can lose and even win. The rest you can, by the way, win. Today, the population, actually, they are telling you they knew what the judgment was.
The court. The only dilemma, the only wonder is that they over-delayed to bring out the judgment.
But when you look at the volume of what was written, you discover why they delayed. The delay was in terms of writing and trying to fit in the legal antics and semantics.
Maybe
Of
you
an
can
idea
also
that-
respond to the fact that someone on social media said that you will never win through votes. That's Derek, I think. Through the court.
Through the court. Of course, it is unlikely. You know, if somebody defeats you,
Isn't that an indictment of the court? You know, their independence, their integrity. When you say you will never,
it is up to the court definitely to stand their ground. It is up to them. Right now, Parliament cannot be. It is looked at as a magic wand by the president to hit at anything he wants. And all his targets are met because of the numbers. He looks at Parliament in terms of numbers, not in terms of a legislature that can shock him with the legislation. Now, if he also begins to look at a court as a rubber, as a whitewash machine, for purposes of whitewashing any dirt that he has created, it is up to them. The courts have a duty to erase that kind of image. Kenyan courts have tried. Ugandan courts must try. The Burundian court has failed. So we don't want a court that fails to
South
be
Africa?
on that duty. South Africa,
they're in a class apart.
you cannot even, you don't think.
They started on the sitting president. He has exited the position, Zuma, and they are pursuing him.
Yes. You see, so now what is happening in Uganda? They know that whatever is happening is a conspiracy for one man to continue in leadership. So he's the one to pay the price. Everybody else, every institution, everything is the question. And the President Museveni is the answer.
Okay.
So now they want the answer in monetary terms, wherever
Okay.
it goes.
Mr. Male, someone said that, I want to take it from one of the persons on social media who said we predicted the court. That to me is, if the Honorable Owindolo is watching out there, or Honorable Bat Katurebe. Honorable Bat Katurebe, I know, watches this program. When you hear such a description, isn't it an indictment? Isn't it unfortunate on our courts that the ordinary local person who is supposed to look at the court as the arbiter, the ultimate arbiter, and supposed to have confidence in their work and to know that, you know, it could go either way, but they say we can predict that this is going to be the ruling. Isn't it unfortunate for our judiciary?
You see, no, it is fortunate actually. Because one time I told the principal judge, Bamwine, that judges are not doing us courtesy, but they are doing their constitutional duty. Judges in every setting are appointed by the people to help them resolve their disputes. Now, trouble comes in when the people themselves see that actually these judges are not doing what they're supposed to do. And just like Honorable Mbidde was saying, that's when now everything comes clear that actually these courts are like Parliament. And you see, if these were social media talks which they told us as petitioners, for you have gone to Mbale, well, you are wasting time. But we have seen the judgment. We ask them, what is the judgment? Museveni is just maintained. For MPs, it's gone. So it's
actually,
like
actually 2 weeks before the judgment.
Not even before.
I know so many MPs who told me we are losing our thing.
Yes.
Many MPs told me that we are losing our thing. In fact, I know a lady MP who told me that the judgment will be 4-1.
And not even before. When we were in court, at closing, Justice Elizabeth Musoke told us, you are there, you have your judgment, you have even on social media saying that you have the judgment. We have not made a judgment. But when she came with the judgment, that's the same judgment she read. And the social media people told her before we left Mbale. So what's the point? You see, we may reach the level of Kenya, where Kenya was before their new constitution.
The 2010 constitution.
Yes. Because at that level, I think Justice Kanyahamba even went there to investigate how the judiciary had been corrupted. That a judge could print a judgment, you pay him the money, he gives you a copy. And then they told us a scenario where a judge came, read the judgment, and then another man stood up. What have you read? Yet you gave me this. Then the judge said,
in court.
In
It
court.
happened in court.
Yes, because he received money from two people. The second man came, he paid him more money. So
well, maybe we have not reached a level where that happens in court, but I can tell you,
and it has happened.
We in our work as journalists, we deal with MPs And during the petitions, you know, there were so many petitions. One MP actually told me there was a judge who approached them and said, you know, waved 2 papers against you, for you, so do the needful and you will get which one?
So this is where we are, and that's an MP, but there was a live example in Ginger, I think 2011 election petitions. They came to court, council said, my lord, people have judgment here. The judge said, hey, judgment is a public document. Then he said, this is my judgment. He read it when which was being held by those people. So what am I telling the judiciary?
The public perception.
Yes, but no, to the judiciary. The judiciary must know that actually they are our guards. And now when them as our guards neglect their duty and then turn their guns against us, the public will lose trust in them. And they are beginning, because if a common person can go on WhatsApp and say, I've seen the judgment, it will be 4-1, this is one, and then you come and read that. Then people shall just say these courts are also Museveni's stooges. Then back to your question which you asked, what are the political implications of the judgment? For me, my opinion is so simple, and I've always said this since I was, you see, in 2005 I was in senior 5, and Museveni amended the constitution. At Kempa Muslim, I was so annoyed actually. I told my dorm mates that actually for me, because I knew that was the beginning of trouble. And for sure, since 2005, Uganda has never progressed. We are increasing in public debt. Everything is
Our
poor.
population has increased.
Maybe that, but that's a problem.
Not a problem.
That's a problem.
It is a more, you know, more market, bigger market.
Which market? A market, you know,
Population
demand must be effective.
cannot deliver a market.
A parasitic population.
Yes. So for me, in my opinion,
Yeah.
this judgment, if is not changed by the Supreme Court, every person should just be sure that we are heading for more trouble. Because just measure Mr. Museveni since 2006. The economy has gone down. When it came to 2010, when he was fearing that maybe those routes in Arab countries would come, he depleted our reserves and bought firearms. And then where the dollar then rose up and where we are now. So you are in an economy where you have a very big public debt. We are just politicking. Recently, we have been voting municipalities. But I mean, why
we are going to discuss that.
Yes, but no, it's also part of what is going to come after the judgment. Because Mr. Museveni again continue to create more, and illegally. And then for me, I don't think that if the judgment remains as it is, Ugandans should just fasten their seat belts and know that we are headed for trouble.
Okay. You have had so much, and so you have a lot on your plate to respond to. But there are some people, I don't know if I saw this in Oloka Onyango's book, when the book they released recently, when courts do politics. And there is a writing to the effect that politics is part of the superstructure or something to the near that. Is that what your family believe in, and that all these are part of, you know, whether it is the Constitution, whether it is the ruling of the Constitutional Court or Supreme Court, that we shall await, that this is just politics being played, and that maybe we should make our people know that actually this is politics being played at another level, just like maybe the military would. Well,
first of all, let me start with Mabirizi, who says if the Supreme Court does not overturn this judgment,
we're heading for trouble.
Then we're heading for trouble. That's one way to blackmail and intimidate the Supreme Court. That they must do as Mabirizi wishes. That's when they are independent. That's when they will. You made the point.
Someone else has said with or without judges.
Yes, that's one way to blackmail. He's attempting to blackmail. But I think there are men and women of integrity. They are not going to be influenced by the runs that we make
on Frontline.
On the front line here.
I
don't think so. Even that one. You see, if you think you have a right to dispute, to be unhappy with the judgment, why do you think Museveni should not have the same right? President Museveni is like, he's not, at least he's not a petitioner. So it's like someone who has gone to the market.
But he's the main beneficiary.
He's like somebody who has gone to the market.
Both petitioner and Museveni have interest.
No, and he's given the bond, so he complains along the road. So really, I don't think his complaint is going to change the position of the court in this judgment.
Yeah, especially after it has been made.
Yeah, the one they have made. I don't think he's going to do so, and I don't think he's going to disregard to implement the decisions of court. So that's point number one. Number two, about the money. The parliament you're talking about, NRC, did not behave like this parliament. They did not increase their salaries. In fact, they traveled in pickups, single cabin pickups.
And those Nissan Laurels.
Yes, so times have changed. It is worrying, not just the NRM MP and opposition MPs, by the way, are costing the president for freebies. It is not just NRM MPs. If it wasn't for fear of litigation, I could name here FDC opposition MPs who have gone to the president and asked him. Yes.
I like that. That if it wasn't for fear of litigation.
To contribute for them money to complete houses. I know.
But you know, if it is the truth, you know that would be a strong defense against defamation. So just say it. If it is the truth,
or paying school fees for
you have your defense on your
tuition for their children. So, yes, the caliber of leadership.
Even traders.
The caliber of leadership, yeah, they are traders who have gone to the president to ask for favors.
Ideally, we should have paid tax for him.
Yes. So,
they don't want money from him.
It is a worrying.
I know Oho likes talking about religious leaders. He's going to bring him that as well.
That has been given. It has been brought by you. Yes, you saw them getting 500 million after complaining that the president plants spies on them. So it is a worrying trend. Our position really is MPs, NRM or not MPs, or NRM or not NRM, ought to remember that leadership, particularly where they voluntarily choose to go for elections to serve Ugandans, they should not hold Ugandans, including holding the president, to ransom or behaving like they are mercenaries. It is a worrying trend. We need to check it. If we don't check it, I agree with Semujju. We are headed for very, very serious trouble.
You know,
the same
PPS to the president one time was appearing before a committee, and she was being asked to account. Said, but even you come for the man who asking me to.
The same thing. The same thing with this
before a committee.
The attitude, you call it glutton. This attitude of members of parliament and elected leaders generally, thinking they have right of way on everything. But the beauty of it, by the way, is helping create a serious contradiction between elected leaders, between MPs, and the general population in Uganda. Why do you think the attrition rate in parliament is so high? It is partly because everyone thinks it is only when you go to parliament, that's where you will make the money.
Actually,
on average, constituency.
You can actually even add, some people have argued that the increasing levels of violence in politics, in campaigns, is because of that do or die.
If they don't listen to wise counsel
of the president,
both of the president, of Mr. Semujju here, and other people, they are going to be in the trouble themselves. You have seen, as we have said here, some of them, in spite of the fact that Semujju claims they have got 140 million, some are in hiding from creditors. The money is never enough for them. Because if your constituency...
And that was on top of the one for vehicles.
Yes, if your constituency here you have got 29 million, it is small money, yes. Or they hear you have got 100 million, like now Semujju claims. Then how much are they going to demand? That's why they have to buy portion for funerals, buy blankets for funerals, buy saucepans for funerals, buy coffins and so on. So they have become burying MPs, not MPs whose job should be to save life, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So, but about the political implication, whether President Museveni stands or not, I think
Whether?
Do you have any
Well,
doubt?
yes, whether or not. That decision hasn't been made. I want to talk about decision that has been made.
That was embedded in,
for-
the,
yes.
You want to be on the safer side.
in the attack on Parliament.
Yes, for NRM, we would want to put up the best candidate.
Captain.
Who
Captain for the
the
team.
best captain for the team.
How would you
If
choose
by
him?
2021 we still judge that Yoweri Museveni is the best captain to lead us, because he has led us well before, he helps us win parliamentary seats and other positions, the decision will be made by NEC, by the National Conference. I would appeal to our colleagues to really go out. They have enough time now. If what you are claiming is true, that now it is certain Museveni is in the ballot, will be on the ballot, they cannot plead that they did not have sufficient time.
I don't like betting, but you
Yes.
put money.
And
You put money.
They can now not plead that they didn't have sufficient time to know who's coming.
No, what I'm saying,
Finally,
you
about
first
the
put some
judgment.
money that if Charles's prediction
Well,
goes through.
I don't bet. Now, about the judgment, where the people have the judgment in social media and so on. It is now a norm in Uganda for social media, which is not well policed, for people to write whatever they want.
You want it to be policed?
Yeah. Not well policed. People are not
Essentially,
responsible.
should it be
People are
policed?
not responsible. You have seen people making cabinet reshuffles. You have seen people making just before the judgment, they promoted Justice Kasure on social media from Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. So I think all of these, and I suspect some of these are handwork of opposition to discredit the outcome. Yes, it is what we call stratagem,
Okay.
political stratagem of the opposition. You write what appears, because they know the public is generally. We have a large section of our public which is gullible. So when you say there's judgment, so should the elements of the judgment rhyme with what has been circulating? They will say, yes, it is. It is true. You even heard them, some saying, some of them, the judges first took their judgment to proofread.
For marking.
to proofread. So, and I think the judges are now used to that. And I think every leader, like we say, if you come into public office, you wear a public cloth. And they should accept those criticisms, even when it is unfair. What will bail them is their action.
The quality.
It's the same thing with the members of parliament. We have all lambasted them. But I think what will absolve them is their action.
Yeah.
Yes.
We need to move to another topic, and we are moving now to changing gears and moving to the topic of the elections as they took place around the country. And on this one, let me start with the OO. Actually, let me start with OO, because I know that you
start with the Semujju, who had a bad weekend.
Why a bad weekend?
Because they came out, as we say,
nothing in the hand.
They came with nothing.
With nothing in the hand.
And yet they had raised so much hubris for a year. So.
No, I'm starting with you. Let me start with the victor.
But he has started already. So
you won 5 out of
there were
5 out of 7.
No, there were
out
7.
Of
There were 7.
8.
There were 6 municipal parliamentary elections.
Yes.
NRM won 4.
UPC won.
UPC won 1.
And
Jema
won 1.
Our colleagues who make so much loud noise.
No, they are asking you to list those who won.
Well, I'm saying what I want to. It is a style of debate. So
no, but you see, there is a newspaper that also had carried on its front page that why opposition lost, not why why opposition was divided in Bugiri, and not why NRM lost in Bugiri.
There were 7 mayoral elections, seats in those 7 municipalities. That's where NRM won 5. Yes.
So what did you do right to win?
FDC won 1.
What did you do right to win?
UPC won. What did we do right? What we have always done right we prepare early.
Rigging.
We prepare
That
early.
you have done right.
2, we try as much as possible to build consensus around our candidates. 3, we campaign vigorously. We don't take anything for granted. We don't take that the support Ugandans give us for granted. So we campaign vigorously. I think majority of Ugandans, in spite of all the difficulties Ugandans are going through, they still believe that the NRM is the best, is the most capable political organization to lead the country. And so, and in this election, if you remember, if you recall, it has been kind of mini national election. Why? Because almost all these 7 municipalities were in different regions of the country.
Across the country.
One was in Karamoja, one is in Lango sub-region, one is in West Nile sub-region, 2 in Ankole sub-region, and 1 in Bisoga. To see that NRM...
Have you counted West Nile out as Western Uganda?
I said West Nile. I said West Nile.
You did not mention, okay, but it is
West
okay
Nile,
now
yes.
that you have mentioned it.
I think this vindicates. And you see, Honorable Semujju here, particularly after the amendment of the Constitution, Honorable Semujju, 1, had said these MPs should not, NRM MPs and NRM generally, should not be touched by the electorate. And remember, these 7 were coming a week or so after the LC1 elections, where in many cases, I think up to almost 9,000, FDC did not present candidates for LC1. So we asked them, where is the structure they have been talking about? Power 10 and people's government. That the members of the people's government could not even accept to be candidates at the lowest level where the people are.
Okay.
And we are now going to have another 6 districts in the next 1 month.
You're creating another 6?
No, the Semujju is already created.
They're all gone. Is this out of the 119?
Yes.
But the president is the one who has been moving, offering districts.
Yeah, well, it is parliament which creates the districts, not the president. The president simply endorses what you have done. There are 6 districts
the list was brought by
which are going to elect women members of parliament in the next 1 month. And I foresee a repeat of what has taken place.
That will push it to how many districts? To 128
or
to
135, I think.
To 128.
So I was saying that Semujju really had a bad weekend.
Okay, Honorable Semujju,
yes.
let's start from what OO is accusing you of, that you had a bad weekend. But Bugiri was particularly one of those that many people have talked about, that you looked shabby as opposition. You had negotiations that should have yielded something to put up a formidable common front as opposition, to at least show to the public that you are united, but you failed dismally, whether it is you as opposition or your leaders. What did you make of that?
Let me start with my constituency, Chira municipality, where out of 56 villages, only 2 people nominated for LC1 as NRM, and they all lost.
Hey.
I don't have any NRM chairperson in
We're talking
Chira.
about the country.
So I am giving.
That's also good.
Yeah, you can see it's in narrow.
I am giving you that as an example.
But that is where he's allowed to reach.
Yes, I don't have all the returns. Where as FDC still collecting returns, will be, because even you can't speak with specifics of how many LCs you want. I guess you are still collecting. But in my area, no one is NRM of an opponent who is boasting that NRM is such a. But these elections, I'll start with Nebi. The FDC candidate in Nebi lost by 300 votes. You know, the NRM candidate was announced amid this shooting.
Yeah.
And that is known. So the FDC candidate had won Nebi. But Pondo says there are things they do, and you did the things you do.
In the Mbidde, the NRM candidate lost by 500.
In Shema, out of 76 polling stations, we won at 60 and celebration is started. But they voted up to midnight. We had defeated them, but the margin was overturned by the voting that stopped at midnight. The good thing with the Electoral Commission, I think they put on their form, declaration form, immediately elections close, you must put voting closed at this time. And these declaration forms of Pondo are public. I know if you don't have copies, I can give you. For Elioda to Mwesige to win. And that's why people in Shema are still protesting, and you are beating them, you are shooting at them.
You protest on anything.
So therefore the NRM can celebrate winning elections because they did what they did to win these elections. I'm talking about Ivanda, because in Ivanda we lost, and they genuinely lost. But even where we won, you changed the results to bring NRM as a winner. No wonder you now had to splash them in newspapers that FDC gets 0. I think that was the intention, having cheated us in Parisa, where the FDC woman was supposed to win. And then NRM is declared the winner. She's immediately rushed to Kampala and sworn in. So I think the Honorable Mukasabide spoke about the kind of elections we have in Uganda, and that should worry you of Pondo. You can celebrate victory like even Obote celebrated in 1980. Interestingly, Hussein Mubarak, I don't want me to bring you those examples. I think you feel very bad about them. Hussein Mubarak won in Parliament. He had, I think, 81%. But less than a year, he was being chased like a chicken. Don't get surprised when things turn. See, for you now, because you have the gun, you will deploy them. Even in the Parliament, if you can't get a decision, you will send SFC to beat the MPs, and then you will be celebrating.
No, what is
so therefore,
is that the
these municipalities,
call them in.
We won one mayor, they are councillors, but for me, that's not the point. The point for me is the quality of elections that we're having in Uganda. Our LC election, at my village, where I stay, there was a disagreement on the register that was brought, being waived by the DISO. See, the DISO, when did you become electoral commission? They won no election. The following day, they brought military and police, and then declared the candidate they wanted the winner. Now that candidate has been chased. He can't open an office. He has tried 3 times. You can imagine NRM bringing police and military to fight over LC1. Because me, I didn't even go there. I said, now, an MP, I don't want to influence the outcome of village elections. Let me leave my people to choose the chairman that they want. I actually didn't know that you're going to bring military upon. So it worries me that this country can have elections, 33 years of Museveni. Either he must use money. When he fails like in Parliament, he will bring the military to beat up everybody. You remember, and the court was very interesting. They said the MPs had to be beaten because the Speaker of Parliament had an order, and that order had to be enforced. But the owner of the order was complaining that you fellows, why did you come, begin beating my people, and also evicting those that I did not read? And then the court said, no, it was okay, they were enforcing the Speaker's order. Then why was the Speaker?
Semujju, briefly on that.
Yes.
Court is meaning that if you walk on a dark corner, and then faces corner around there, and then they beat
don't
you.
Complain.
The judge shall tell you, your magistrate, why were you passing in the dark corner? Let them beat you.
So for these elections, eventually when we get all the returns, for me as a spokesperson of the FDC, we think we did. First of all, we begin from 0. The FDC was born after the LC elections that NRM, I don't know when the last time they organized the election. This is the first time.
It was 2005 or 6? 2001.
This is the first time.
2001.
It's the first time we are engaging with the LC.
This is the first time.
One.
Okay.
I
am actually told that information coming in is that there is an application for hearing for recounting in Nebi, and I think tomorrow at 11. So for Nebi, there is a possibility that there might be a recounting.
The trouble, you know, the recounting in Iwaga of Kasibante and Singh.
The one where you...
If you actually add NRM, I can't subject myself to a recount.
Anyway.
They maybe reduce what you have and give you half.
They can. Honorable Mbidde,
Yes.
DP supported my friend Basalirwa in Bugiri. And I need us to keep on that a bit, because I need us, you see, it is also important to flash the torch on the opposition as well. Whereas you cry foul a lot, and that, yes, we can understand that, you know, the NRM is in power and maybe you are the disadvantaged side. We also have to flash a torch on what you do as part of accountability, and ask the questions where you fail genuinely, and that we can see that you are really also frustrating whatever hope should be coming out of that. Why did you succeed in you know, being divided, if I can call it that?
But in Limin, let me just add on just a small thing.
Yeah.
You know, when you hear OO stating the success story on matters to do with their performance in terms of LOCs, one needs to tell the public when were the LOCs last elected.
Some 18 years ago, 16, 17.
Now, political parties were free in 2005, and accordingly, that is when they started operating under a restrictive environment. Now, what is the process that led to the lists of voters that were supposed to actually vote for LOCs? This was the process that the local council members who actually believed they are members of the NRM, the incumbents, ideally registered their own voters. Now, most of the voters, you can ask yourself why there are no celebrations of those that won. You know, they are also scared. The villages are stuck. The people leading them are not the ones they want. I want to have a record of those that have held meetings ever since they were elected. There is a very big problem, Odongtho, in the whole country. I have seen this in Masaka, where I participated and we won. The LOCs that we lost were those where the voters were lists created by incumbents who thought they were NRM, because by the time parties were free under the Tubejeko slogan, they thought they had remained in NRM, not the system, but now the party, which also ought to have been created at the same time. Now, that meant that, of course, now the conspiracy to rig and remain in office is now trickling down from the top office now up to village level. So we have leaders that have nobody they can say they lead. They cannot invite them for any meeting. They fear them. Some of them are even indebted. So you see that some of them have even raped their daughters. They cannot invite them. Then those that had been ferried to vote, after voting they went back. So there is nobody to celebrate. The villages are stuck. So what we are saying, and that is now village leadership.
You couldn't find the candidates, you go supporting others.
You see, we are living under a restrictive environment. Even you yourselves, the NRM party, cannot safely come here and say that you are the ones taking decisions in terms of who leads Uganda. Because you are also under a restrictive environment. I've heard several of you complaining. Because you don't know, you are now being treated like a task force, considered during periods of elections. Otherwise, before that, you are not an entity. What the president is leading is a dogmatic cult. There is no party called NRM. You are with us. We are all on the opposition. NRM, where the president is running a dogmatic cult, but with a simplified and easily graspable catechism, with him as the high priest celebrating the mass. So there is no party function in Uganda. Those that must function like ours on the opposition are restricted and only freed during periodic set out elections where the dates are given, freedom is given, competition is extremely hard. That is why we begin to campaign at the ballot box. So winning is miraculous. For us, winning is miraculous. Whereas for you, you are in a campaign mood for 5 years. That's why the president thinks it must be 7. But he is not telling, we cannot judge the president of the Republic of Uganda, who has led us for 33 years, in terms of whether 5 years are enough for him to perform. The question would be, how many of the 33 have you performed?
Okay.
So we are in a situation that is, you can safely call it a discombobulated situation. It is not you cannot understand it. It is confusing.
What does that mean for avoidance of doubt?
Yeah, it is a confused state of affairs.
Confused.
Yes. So what Honorable Semujju is saying as our success stories, those are magical. Our differences are sponsored by the restrictions that we have. We don't get time to talk, we don't get time to politic, we don't get time to assess the ground. We are restricted, arrested, imprisoned, and whoever assesses the ground, even those that access regions by way of setting up musical concerts, they are stopped. So you see, because they are politicians. Now,
Mr. Male, you are a, I know you...
So finally, before he comes,
yes.
That is what I called a faulty weighing scale being used to determine the weight of the opposition.
Okay.
Male, what would you prescribe as a solution for the current status?
Personally, I believe, I don't believe we are in politics, real politics,
yes,
right now. Actually, I'm looking at it as people trying to construct huts in burning fire. That's what it is.
With what material?
Of course, using the same grass, which is on fire. This is what is happening here. Ask me why. Because, first of all, NRM, the way I'm looking at it, it's not a party, actually. It's a state arm. And that's what it was.
It is registered as a party.
Of course.
And you know you are a lawyer, so the legal entity exists.
The same movement system was inherited by them. And actually, I think someone told me there was some argument about what should be a party. Some people like Anyamba were saying, no, you should not use NRM because this is the same movement. Let's form another party. He said, no, let's just add there the word O. So he said NRM O.
No, the lawyer. There is no NRM O.
No, even
there is NRM.
I have a copy of the constitution you first made, which had NRM O.
Can you imagine, Semujju, if you have a draft document and then you have a final document?
But even the final document, if you read the preamble of your constitution, look at the preamble of your constitution. It gives details of the performance of the NRM, which includes fighting revolutionary wars. Now,
What are you making?
Was it borrowed from Algeria? Was it borrowed from Algeria?
What argument are you making?
No, let me just Mabirizi. You see, the Honorable Martin Wandel, I think now is a civil servant. So he asks when they are making the NRM constitution in the conference center, that a party which is starting today, how can it have a historical members league? And the president told him, these things were formed long ago. That's when he left.
So basically,
That's why he left, because
my point
he
is,
didn't understand. He failed to understand.
was it a fair
No, he
report?
thought the party was starting.
No, he didn't
But
understand.
And then asking, how can we have historical
The point
members
I'm
Okay, that's a good point, but let's give room for Mabirizi.
The point I'm making is, this NRMO is not a party of sorts. It's actually a state arm which started in 1986 and up now functioning. So, personally, actually right now, for me personally, I cannot join any political party right now because it's actually building a heart in burning fire. And that's why you can see my friends here talking about LOC elections, but ideally, in this century, how do you say that you are going to conduct elections when people are lining up? And actually, that was profited by this NRM to prevent reasonable people from participating in those elections. Because look at a reverend. Can a reverend go and line up? So it just leaves people who are not serious to come up, and surely that cannot be opposition. That can be the 2010 and those other groups to be chairman. Now, OO was saying that we are having mini national elections. In my understanding of this constitution, which Honorable Semujju was saying Museveni brought, I'm looking at this and constitution. In our constitution, I've never had something like mini national elections. Is it midterm elections? all we have are national elections. But I think Mr. Museveni is using these elections to gang up, to get more members so that he can strengthen his patronage line. Because look here, when you look at Article 63, there's a method of creating constituencies. But then they come down and make the Local Government Act. Then they claim that a constituency, a municipality shall be a constituency. And then when you go to that same constitution, it provides only one situation where you create a constituency after a census. Actually, it says 12 months after a national census. But it's telling you every time they are creating constituencies.
Have I told you so? Have I told you?
Yes.
No, you have just told me.
Every time we create
yes, you have just created municipalities.
I said
now you are creating districts.
I said Semujju is a member of parliament, have created 6 new districts.
They actually not 6.
Of course, Semujju and his group are less than 40.
So?
And FDC. So,
tell me, when they created the Kirem municipality, did Semujju refuse to...
When was it created? After census. After census.
But I found a constituency where...
Actually,
I'm talking
but
about
my point
Kirem
is,
municipality.
my point is,
if they are dividing it,
for me, my point is,
what do I stop?
The foundation of all this, for me, I may not debate the results, because actually, you just thank Basaidwa for trying to build a hut amid this burning grass. Because, first of all, this is a patronage. But again, look at the Electoral Commission. If you look at this constitution under Article 60, just briefly, it talks about the Electoral Commission and says members of the commission shall be persons of high moral character, proven integrity. Of course, even with the bandage, it says the members of the commission shall be persons
most important.
of high moral character, proven integrity, who possess considerable experience and demonstrate competence in conduct of public affairs.
That is the chairperson of what?
No, the members of the commission. It says the Electoral Commission.
Electoral Commission.
Members of the commission.
Yeah, but the chairperson is a judge.
Members of the commission.
We can start with the chairperson.
Yeah, but he's only one.
No problem. And I'm coming to that. I shall link it with Palisa. Where I lost. We have a chairperson. I agree. We have Madam Aisha. I agree. And then Tashobia. I agree. Do you know the other 4?
I know them.
By name, can you mention them? And do those people know them?
Commissioners?
Yes.
There is a secretary.
The remaining 4. He's not a member of the commission. He's a secretary. So the fact that you don't know them, it means they don't have the demonstrated competence in conduct of public affairs.
No, that is not a argument which is... the fact that I don't know may be my own problem. Not that they don't have demonstrable... demonstrated...
I think you saw Justice Kakuru's analysis of a reasonable person. For you are beyond a reasonable person.
The one with the mobile phone?
For you are beyond that. For you are beyond that, you're a journalist. If you don't know the 4 commissioners, yet they are the majority, then you have a commission. Then let's go to Palisa. In Palisa, that woman just added her father's name. Is it Opselem? Her father's name.
Yeah.
Then NRM of OO brought a complaint that she never went to school. Then the 3, the chairman, Ajati Aisha and Tashobia, said no, she went to school, we cannot disqualify her. So the other 4 whom you don't know, they said let's vote. They voted that she should be disqualified. Purely illegally. So had they been competent in public affairs and you know them, they would not have decided that. So with that commission, surely, what do you expect? So for me, actually, I've taken a personal decision. I can never participate actually in election when Museveni is still here. Because even the constitution with the minimum basics, then how will you change the thing? Definitely,
Anyway,
you'll have to go.
Respond to some of the issues that were raised.
I like the fact that you say that not knowing the commissioners in detail could be a person's weakness. I don't know whether Mabirizi is now saying that because he runs in court all the time and is now known, therefore he's very competent. I think that commission, first of all, they went before Parliament. You can fault them.
Where Parliament sits in the dark. Parliament sits in the dark.
Well, I don't know.
Journalists.
I don't know about darkness. I know that Parliament sits in public. Their proceedings in public.
Public appointments.
Or at least if it is not in public, the decisions are known, are made to the public. Now, if there is anybody who has a reason whatsoever to challenge nomination of a member of a commission, can do so. There is this tendency, which is now fashionable. that when you disagree with the decision of the person, you attack their integrity. That's what we have done here with the courts, the Constitutional Court. You have attempted to do with the Supreme Court. And I don't think it is a good way to debate. That when somebody makes a decision against you, then it can only be because of their character. I am not sure, for you who make, I think you have made it now a lifestyle to dig into the character of
public officers.
You remember when the Constitutional Court began, what we did, and what was the ruling? They didn't agree with you because they didn't agree with you. They found that you are making these outlandish.
They did dispute them.
Yes.
But also that is not a bad problem.
I'm saying so.
To invest in knowing the conduct of public officers and exposing it, as long as it's right, truthful.
No, for purpose of being outlandish, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. You okay?
I think the challenge is on the public officers to make sure that they are beyond reproach, so that even if Malay digs, they are ambulance chasers sometimes.
For instance, now he has said that in the case of Parisa, these 4 are the ones who voted. This matter, I think, is in court.
It was disposed of.
So,
is it not the person who was sworn in the chambers of the
so are you saying if a court could not find merit that the decision of the commission, because now this is the decision of the commission, are you saying that court of Uganda did not find merit in the claim this person made?
But was
okay.
it?
Or the court,
or
the judge also was questionable.
I'm personally enjoying this. I would have wanted it to move on. Except I just realized that time is not our time is fast spent. Now we need to do a way forward. You start with us. Way forward, what will you be doing next week? As what we usually do, a minute each now. What will you be doing next week now that elections are over?
Politics is not over. And government work is not over.
Mao one time said, for me, I'm a professional politician.
Yes.
So you are also now a professional politician.
Yes, it is not over. First of all, I will continue debating with the Honorable Semujju and others of their narrative, mainly to try and expose the charlatan that they are, to expose the disingenuity in them. When things go their way, the election is good. No. The electoral commission is good. The courts are good. When they lose,
then everything is bad.
Then everything is bad. Secondly, I hope that what I do next week.
Are you going to Nebi with Ozombo, actually, with President Museveni? He's going to fundraise for war girls.
No.
You talked about the patronage system. For us, we have also decided that to invite the president to come and help. War girls is celebrating 50 years. It was, I think, the first girls' school there. So we have invited President Museveni to come to Nebi and also give us part of the national cake on Saturday.
Well, that's not the only national cake. You people of Zombo and Western Nigeria, again, you have got a tarmac road, you have got electricity, you have got water. But
we got eclipse and
it is yes, we got even eclipse under the NRM. Now, it is good that it is good that people invite the president and they respond to their invitation, because when he goes, he raises the visibility of those places. Secondly, Honorable Semujju through Parliament allocate donation money to the president,
which they don't say do this with. I wish they would say it from next financial year.
The president has been magnanimous that instead of buying for Fono bulls or call a party and he slaughters bulls. He chooses to spend this money on what, in his view and in my view, appears to be more productive. He sends children to school with this donation. He saves patients sometimes, including members of parliament, including the ones from opposition. He pays their medical bills using this money.
Are you forgetting to congratulate your boss? He won a Global Peace Award.
From here.
I have already congratulated him on Twitter.
Okay.
But maybe I just forgot to congratulate our fellow NBS regular debater, Honorable Asman Basari. It is good that at long last he has come in.
No, but he has been consistent. That is a good quality. Out of the ones we had.
I don't know about that.
Honorable.
You know he could be smeared by the other disease in Parliament.
Okay.
Where even good people.
Okay. Semujju has remained good, so it is possible. Mabirizi, what will you be doing next week?
Of course, next week, as Honorable Semujju has been telling you, we are processing the appeal. They have to give us the record, and it's too heavy because the Mbidde record has over 1,114 pages. Then the judgment has 800 pages, so it's a heavy record, and for that purpose, it's expensive on our side. But so next week shall be doing that. And what I'm telling the people out there, that you people, we know that the court system may not be that perfect, but you can never know the strength of your vehicle until it moves. So we need to go there, put questions to them, and we have already at least won a part of it. So let them not so despise them so much. Let's give them time. Let's give them a chance so that because they are fellow Ugandans, they live with us here, they have wives, they have children. And if anything turns up, they shall also be suffering. So let's give them a chance. Let's give Smoko a chance to see that at least it can determine this dispute once and for all. Thank you.
Good. Honorable Mbidde, next week and way forward.
We have not been given the democracy that we want. However, we will continue to want it. So my activities shall continue to include those that I can say here and those that I will not say. But all calculated.
As long as they are all legal. As long as they are all legal.
At least I can guarantee that their activities calculated to see change in Uganda.
Okay.
And we shall proceed unconcernedly until the object is arrived at. That is what I will continue.
We supported you.
Finally, Honorable Semujju.
I think
I thought you supported quality. Honorable Semujju.
You know, when you rear a snake,
Yeah.
you cannot appeal to it. That after all, I have been feeding you, because the job of a snake is to bite.
Let's listen to Honorable Semujju. What will you be doing next week?
when you are go forward, when you are in countries that are run by strong men, you continue appealing to them because it's possible to remove them, but you may also lose a country in the process, like it has happened in Libya. So you continue praying for some smooth transition, maybe the way it happened in Ghana under Rawlings. But Mr. Museveni is going to be it's going to be a book. There are times when you think maybe now he's about to go, and then he starts
He becomes strong.
as if he has never been a president. He even says the
He's starting
5 years
afresh.
is not enough. So of course, certainly we continue.
So you want to congratulate him for his Peace Award?
Peace award, which peace?
In the Great Lakes.
It's possible to award yourself.
That's why it was in Kampala.
Thank you so much. This is that has been the voice of Honorable Semujju Ibrahim Nganda, MP for Kira Municipality, discussing this evening together with Honorable Fred Mbidde, Yala MP, and lawyer Male Mabirizi. And we wish you the best. We wish you good luck, and we shall be following. And for us students, we want more jurisprudence created. So the more it goes, the faster it goes to the Supreme Court, the better for us. Whatever comes up, we shall continue learning. It is still a learning curve. And Mr. Ofono Pondo, the indefatigable spokesperson of the NRM, thank you so much. And tell President Museveni when he's going to Nebi, he's crossing that Nile, he should take a bigger pass because that is a girls' school and we were girls and it has trained a lot. For 50 years it has done a lot for this country.
I know that area has
So,
also given him votes.
yes, so you have to take a bigger pass on Saturday. Mr. President, if you are watching, I know you watch, take a bigger pass to our people as well so that we can, something closer to Rukunjiri, so that we can also feel part of, you see. But from the technical...
Why not something bigger?
Yeah?
Why close? Why not bigger?
Something bigger than Rukunjiri, yes. We would love that. We would love that. But from the technical team here, from the front line, thank you so much from the entire technical team. We say thank you for always making sure that this show comes your way. To you, especially out there who sits out there to watch and listen to this show, we appreciate and we really we value your time. Thank you so much. Until next week, this is the Frontline. Keep it here. Bye-bye.